Welcome to Awkward Teenagers. I'm your host tonight, Grant Bowen. Thank you. Very nice to meet you. So by round of applause, how many people have been to Awkward Teenagers before? Okay, how many of you, this is your first time? Please keep coming back. So for those of you who are new here, this is a live storytelling show. We have a great lineup of 5 wonderful storytellers. They're going to come up here and they're going to share with you true stories from their middle school and high school years. These are stories about, first dates, breakups, drinking and driving, going to school, taking tests, and of course, most of all, coming of age. And so it's going to be a really good time. Bar is going to be open during the show. We only ask that you wait between each story if you're going to come up and get a drink, and you will know we are between each story because I will be up here. So I'm the one person you have permission to interrupt to come up. I'm just going to talk. Let's chat for a bit. Let our latecomers have a minute to come in. So I'm from Alabama originally. Well, and nowadays I work for a mental. Yes, plenty more of those tonight. I work for a mental health nonprofit specifically for high schoolers and college students. And working, thank you. And working there makes me think a lot about some of the more anxious episodes from when I was in school, and in particular, this one time in senior year. My big final year in school, I'm getting ready to graduate and go off to college, and my parents have made it really, really clear how much of a priority my grades are. Because while they had saved up some money to get me through college, they made it clear I was going to need a couple of scholarships, and I needed to look really good on those applications, and I could not mess this up, and you gotta get out with A's and B's. Please, 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 please. So I'm like, okay, I got it. And when registering for my final semester, there were, with the track I was on, there were 2 options for a science class. There was like a regular 12th grade science class, but then, as like a special elective, they had forensic science. Now, I was a teenager between like 2001 and 2007. And the biggest TV show on the air at the time was CSI. And I sat there thinking, oh, great. You're going to look through microscopes and see like microorganisms. I'm going to figure out how to find a fingerprint on a bullet. It's going to be great. This sounds like a fun class. And part of it was fun. We did some work with microscopes and read some of the basic science information. That was like half the class. The other half of the class was watching reruns of, not CSI, Criminal Minds and Bones. Bones I get. Criminal Minds is like psychological profiling. I don't know what that has to do with forensic science. But then that made me think, okay, you know what? This final is gonna be easy to pass. I can totally do it. So I have all my materials together. I sit up hours the night before the test, getting ready. I come in, our teacher's at the front. She tells us like, hey, when you're finished, just bring your test up to me. You're free to leave. I'm like, great. And I sit down and I look at the test and my mind goes blank. Completely blank. I forget everything about, I'd been up hours studying, but I forget everything about forensic science. I forget everything about science. If you had asked me to spell my name, I would have completely forgotten. I just sat there and stared at the paper, and that's when my mind just started to go in a whirlwind, and I'm just this feeling that like I'm gonna fail, and I'm looking around, and all the other students in the class just seem to be going at the speed of light through their test, and I can't even pick up the pencil. I'm frozen in my seat. I kind of just don't know what to do. And I finally just get up and I take the test. I'm like, the only thing I can think of to do. I walk up to the teacher's desk and I can barely spit out my words. I'm just like, hey, I'm having trouble with this. And the teacher who had us watching Criminal Minds and Bones, who I thought wasn't as invested in this class, looks at me and just kind of goes, okay, do you want to just come back tomorrow and take the final then? And that meant so much, just because she could really see that I was dealing with the stress and the panic, and she gave me that way out. And so I very happily took the offer, came back the next day, and passed the test. And when you finally find out in your 30s that you have anxiety, the light bulb goes off over your head. So anyway, it's what we know now. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Let's get this show started. Our first storyteller of the night, he is the host of How Was It at QED in Astoria. And he was recently at the San Francisco Sketch Fest. We love having him here. He's really funny. Give it up for Matt Storrs.
Oh, hi, everybody. Hi. Oh, fantastic. That's the one we used. Okay. That's me on the right. The one on the left, okay, my left. Okay, you know what it is. I'm the shorter one. Fantastic. Hi, everybody. A lot of people don't know what a Lutheran is, but for me, it was something that I knew from the day I was born, because I grew up Lutheran. My grandparents were Lutheran. My parents were Lutheran. I went to church every Sunday, sometimes a couple times a week, and I even went to a Lutheran middle school. Now, for those of you that don't know what a Lutheran is a break from the Catholic Church. It's a Protestant religion. Basically, a bunch of years ago, there was a guy named Martin Luther. He had a bunch of problems with the Catholic Church, 95 of them, in fact. And he nailed, in true Lutheran fashion, he confronted them by nailing those 95 theses on a door. And basically, if you were trying to figure out what Lutherans believe, the easiest way to understand what a Lutheran is, or any Christian religion is just to define what type of guilt they feel. So a Lutheran will feel guilty if you invite them to a party and they don't show up early enough to help you set up. That's what I grew up in. And I wanted to be confirmed in the church. That's something both my brothers did, my parents did, everybody did, and I needed to get confirmed. Even though I had gone to this religious middle school and I felt like I didn't have to get confirmed, I had done way more religious study than any of my family members, I felt like I had to do it for my family. And so I went through all the confirmation classes at my church. I did the volunteer stuff that I had to do. And then the only thing left was I had to go to confirmation camp, a Jesus camp, over a 3-day weekend. It was Martin Luther King Jr. Day weekend. It's very important. I was very confused originally. I'm like, we have our own day. And they're like, nope. It's a different guy, Matt. And so I had to go to this confirmation camp. But my parents were like, if you want to be confirmed in the church, you got to do this yourself. And I think, in hindsight, my parents were just a little stressed and busy. But they gave me the list from my church. The choir director was going to go down with me. And they gave me the list of things I had to bring to the sleepaway camp. And so I packed everything up. And one day, she picked me up, and we started driving down there. But before I left, my parents did tell me one thing. They said, you have to be on your best behavior. You cannot curse. You cannot make fun of the Bible. You have to be polite. You can't even say hell. People will be offended, because this wasn't just Lutherans that I was going to hang out with. It was born-again Christians, some Catholics. Any denomination that had kids that needed to get confirmed went to this camp. And I learned very quickly that these people were much more religious than I was. And also, I had made a slight mistake. I had forgotten a pillow. And so when I got there, I told the choir director, I'm like, oh my God, I forgot a pillow. And she's like, don't worry about it, I'll find you one. So she goes around to every one of the youth pastors, all the pastors that are there, and are asking, Matt doesn't have a pillow? And she's saying it just too loud. And so now all of the kids think I'm destitute. Like he can't even bring a pillow to the sleepaway camp. And so I have trouble meeting people initially, and I have this just awkwardness of I don't know how to communicate with people, and I don't know how to express myself if I can't make fun of the Bible, if I can't... Not that I cursed a lot, but like, okay, like who am I supposed to be? And so I get put into my Bible study group. It's 4 kids, including myself, and then our youth pastor. Our youth pastor is named Nate, but he spells his name N8. We call him Nate with an 8. And one of the kids in my class, or my group, he had created his own Christian D&D because he had gotten in trouble for playing D&D. And so all of the apostles were the different classes that you could play as, except for Judas, who was the bad guy. It was really an inventive game. I was in the nerd group. Is that not clear? Okay. And I had trouble meeting people. I tried to talk to a kid that really liked basketball, and I'm like, "You're so good at basketball," and he's like, "Yeah, I am good at basketball, and it's only through Jesus that I'm so good." I'm like, "I don't think Jesus is making those layups." You're very good. And so I wasn't really meeting people outside of my group. And then the first night at dinner, we were eating in a cafeteria, and they said, after dinner, we're going to do a talent show, but it's going to be a surprise. Anybody that has a card under their chair has to perform. And one of the youth pastors had a guitar, of course, and he did an Elvis impersonation, of course. They put that one under his seat, but he didn't want to do it for some reason, so he took one of his kids and had them put it under my chair. And so when it was time to look, I looked under and I'm like, "Elvis, I don't know how to play a guitar." And I go up and I'm like, "I don't really know how to do this. I don't know how to do an Elvis impersonation." They're like, "Oh, it's okay. Do you know how to do anything else?" I'm like, "I can do some other impressions." And so I go up and I start into a Christopher Walken impression. And Nate with an 8 very quickly is like, "No, no, 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 no." Christopher Walken, Pulp Fiction, at this time, the prophecy movies, where he plays the Antichrist. Not a good thing for these kids. So I switch to something else and I do Arnold Schwarzenegger. And everybody's like, "This is amazing. I can't believe," and it's not a very good impression, but people think it's amazing. So like eventually, throughout the rest of the evening and into the next day, people are coming up to me and they're talking to me and like, "Oh, say this Bible verse. This is my favorite Bible verse. Say it as Arnold." And I'm like, "All right, yeah, this is how I'm gonna meet people. This is how I'm gonna meet people." And then part of the way through that day, I noticed that Nate with an 8 is acting kind of weird. And then all of the other youth pastors are acting weird around me, and all of the like supervising pastors are being weird as well. And they're like not making eye contact. They're not talking to me as much. It's just something seems weird. And so I go back to the break room and I go to the cabinet where we put all of our cell phones, because we were not allowed to have our cell phones for this weekend because the risk of us playing Snake was too much. That's how long ago this was. That's what I had on my phone. And I get my phone out and I call my parents. And I very briefly talked to them about how uncomfortable I've been and how things seem to be going well. And my dad stops me. He's like, "Matt, I got bit by a dog. I'm gonna be okay. But I'm gonna get some stitches. I just want you to know." I'm like, "Okay, thank you." And I hang up the phone. And as I'm going back to the cabinet to put it away, Nate with an 8 walks in. And I had not seen this person upset in my life. He's been a very kind soul, but I've obviously disappointed him by breaking out my cell phone. He's like, "Matt, I'm disappointed in you, but we can talk about that in a minute. I need to create a space here where we can talk about something serious. And so are you comfortable with that? Because I want to make sure we have that space together." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure, Nate with an 8. That sounds like a good idea." And so we sit down, and he puts his arm on my shoulder. He's like, Matt, might be hard to hear, and I don't want you to panic or get upset. But we found out this morning that your dad got bitten by a dog. And I'm like, yeah, Nate, I know. That's who I was just on the phone with. And he's like, so you don't need to be consoled and like talk through this? I'm like, no, I know about it. He's like now he's disappointed because he can't do the thing that he's been building up all day to do. He's like, okay, fine. But don't use your phone anymore. I'm like, fine. And the rest of the day goes fine. The next day goes fine. And at the end of the weekend, we have a festival, like awards festival. And everybody's group gets up. Everybody gets an award that all of their group members have voted on for them. And everybody gets recognized. And it's beautiful. And my group goes up and everybody's like talking about the Christian D&D that we were doing and all of these other things. And then they get to me and they're like, Matt, do Arnold. And everybody that's been here says, do Arnold, do Arnold. I'm like, okay. And so I do John 3:16 as Arnold Schwarzenegger. I will do that for you now. And so God so loved the world that he gave his only son to die so that whoever believes in him can have eternal life. It's not the best. And I get done, people clap and they cheer, and then I recognize that my choir director is there, and Nate's there, all these people, but my parents aren't there. And the choir director's like, hey, Matt, I'll drive you home. I'm like, okay. And we get into the parking lot, my parents are there. We're so sorry, we're late, things got out of hand. I'm like, it's fine, I'll go home with you. I load my stuff in the car, we get in the car, we're a mile down the road, and they're like, oh, so how was it? I'm like, well, it's kind of upsetting that you weren't there. It's kind of upsetting that you didn't help me pack, so I didn't have a pillow, and everybody thought I was destitute. But I know how you can make it up to me. And they're like, fine, do whatever you want. And I'm like, and so I cursed the entire ride home. And we pull into our driveway, and I go into my room, and I put my stuff away, and I lay my head on my pillow, and I sleep soundly for the first time in a week. Thank you, everybody.
Oh my God. You know what's crazy? Your Schwarzenegger sounds closer to Walken. If you really listen to it, which makes me now want to hear your Walken, but okay. I'll get you after the show. I was raised Southern Baptist, so I can also confirm that church camp sucks. Never fun, always awkward, always ready to go home. So I really, really, really feel your pain. One more time for Matt, everybody. I was in the nerd group too, and look at us now. Telling stories in a basement. All right, our next storyteller, I'm going to get my notes out here just to make sure. Yes. Our next storyteller is a San Diego native who has toured her solo shows to various festivals in the U.S., in Scotland, in Canada. She performs with the site-specific theater group, Our Bar, and has hosted the reading and performance series Lyrics, Lit, and Liquor for the last decade. You can check out their next show on April 14th at Freddy's Bar in Brooklyn. Please give it up for Amanda Miller.
Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. Nice to see you. So when I was in 8th grade, I wrote a cautionary tale about heroin addiction that I could wear as a necklace. It was called Howard's Story, and it was told by a man named Howard from beyond the grave. Here's how it begins. My name is Howard, and I have an important story for you. I lost my life and just about everything else because of one thing: drugs. It all started in about 11th grade. I was brought up perfectly well, but in high school, me and my buds started doing the normal stuff. Dope. It brought down my grade average from a B to an F. Then I started experimenting with all kinds of drugs that summer. That summer, the summer between 11th and 12th grade, that was the pits. I tried speed, crystal, and cocaine. I had no taste for any of them. I went straight to heroin and dropped out of school. So the story goes on to chronicle Howard's struggle with addiction. You know, he gets sober, and then he gets married, and then he relapses and gets divorced, and then he gets back into drugs. He loses his job. He goes to the hospital. He goes back to rehab. Then he's trying to stay sober, but he's going out of his mind for heroin. So he climbs to the top of a building and tests his ability to fly. Sadly, he lands on his head. His skull splits apart, blood gushes everywhere, and he watches his soul drift away. I wrote this as a young aspiring goth. The same year that I tried pot for the first time. You know, the gateway drug to heroin. It was definitely the product of, drug abuse resistance education, or DARE. Did anyone else grow up with DARE? Okay, so you remember, right? DARE, to keep kids off drugs, right? Your brain is an egg, but on drugs it's a fried egg. Just say no. Try drugs and you'll fail out of school and die like Howard. So anyway, I tried pot for the first time on the rooftop of a movie theater in a strip mall with my friends Maddie and Kira and this guy David Marston, who I didn't know very well, but he was scrawny and pale and short and cool as shit because he was a weed dealer. And I was really nervous to try pot because I wasn't sure how it was going to affect me, and also I didn't want to seem uncool. But, I watched very carefully as David sucked the smoke from the pipe and held it in his lungs and then exhaled it in a big, super cool, dark cloud. And I tried to copy what he did when he passed me the pipe, and I held it really, really long in my lungs, even though my throat felt like a fireplace. And then David was all like, "Oh my God, dude, you pull so hard. This chick knows what she's doing." And I felt so cool. I had fooled them all. It was awesome until I couldn't hold it in anymore and I erupted into a coughing fit of epic proportions, but no one said anything because I guess I'd already proven how cool I was. And then a couple hits later, I noticed the world had transformed into a surreal landscape. And I couldn't stop smiling even though it hurt. I was fucking stoned. And so were Maddie and Kira and David. So we made the best decision ever. That's right. We went to TGI Fridays. The taste of cheesy potato skins dipped in ranch dressing blew my goddamn mind. And even though nothing was funny, I couldn't stop laughing. So when we were done, we made the next best decision ever. That's right. We crossed the parking lot into the Save On drugstore, and pushed each other around in shopping carts until the manager told us to leave. It was awesome. So I thought after that experience about how the drug educators had told us it wasn't cool to do drugs, but they weren't very cool. And actually cool people did do drugs, you know? Like my favorite musicians did a lot of drugs, and they were the coolest. But some of them were also dead. From heroin. Heroin was really scary. And, you know, I knew I would never do it, but maybe because of that, I became obsessed with stories about heroin, right? And people doing it. I read the Nirvana biography, Come As You Are, to learn more about Kurt Cobain's addiction and suicide. I watched and I rewatched that movie Gia with Angelina Jolie. Anyone else? About the model who died of AIDS from shooting up. And I watched a lot of Lifetime movies, and I can't really remember any of them because they're all a blur. But, you know, I may have been terrified to try heroin, but I wasn't too scared to swallow a bunch of my friends' prescription antipsychotics and chase them with a buttload of booze and then sit in the hot tub with her while her parents were out for the night. We woke up the next morning and her room was trashed and her desk was split in two. And we have no recollection of how that happened. And I wasn't too scared to try acid at a party where I only kind of knew one person and then let some strange older guy put his hands down my pants while I watched the colors fly off the TV screen across the room. And I wasn't too scared to get in a car with my friend after a party who was driving, who was so wasted that she couldn't remember the drive the next day. So, yeah, but I didn't try heroin. So in that sense, you know, Dare was a success. But as I got older, I started to think, you know, maybe it would have been more effective if, like, the drug educators were just, you know, a little more realistic and a little more nuanced in their approach to talking to teenagers about drugs, you know, like maybe respecting teenagers' intelligence and honoring the fact that, you know, experimenting and testing our limits is a part of growing up. Just a thought. Anyway, back to Howard's story. I know you're dying to know how it ends. That's right. That last part wasn't how it ended. There is a life after death. I woke up in the morgue and saw my body. What an ugly sight. But the worst thing was, there was no one to go to my funeral. My family didn't know I was dead. Heroin killed me. I'm living my other life now. I'm so ashamed of myself. To think that my actual life could have been so good. Why did I throw it away with drugs? I just sadly understand that too many people have made the same mistake. Thanks, Dare.
Oh, man. Ladies and gentlemen, your DARE officer. Thank you for attending our Scared Straight program. No, I was such a square when it came to, I listened to the DARE program. I didn't try weed until I was 21. And I remember the first time I did it, and we smoked quite a bit, but I was going the whole night. I was like, I don't feel anything. What's going on? And then I left to go back to my apartment, stopped at McDonald's, and ordered one of everything off the dollar menu. So I at least got that side effect from it. Anyway, one more time for Amanda, everybody. All right, your next storyteller is someone you've met already. In fact, She checked you in at the front door. She works here with Frigid New York, and if you would like to know more about what's going on here at this theater or at the Crane, go to frigid.nyc, and chances are you will see her lovely face again. Give it up for Tess Henry.
Hi, everybody. It's a complicated mic. Hang on. How we doing? We doing okay tonight? Yeah? Good. I immediately forgot I was gonna. Yeah, I love that photo of myself, and I heard it was gonna be on the screen tonight, and I was like, man, as a narcissist, this is amazing. A big photo of myself on the screen, absolutely. When I was a teenager, I had a crush on anything and everyone that moved and was near me. This was before I was out, so it was mostly I would focus on the guys. I was once quoted as saying, "If you don't have a crush, you're not alive," which I think is a crazy statement to say. Because as an adult, having a crush is one of my least favorite things in the world. I hate having a crush on somebody. I hate only like thinking about them and being sad about it and liking them, but not like it's just truly a nightmare. I miss when I was that young, because having a crush on somebody before you've ever had a romantic entanglement with anybody is kind of magical. It's kind of beautiful before you know what a real relationship is and what you're actually wanting, for. It's kind of like any of it could be real. I was a virgin. I had never dated anybody in my life, and it was like a relationship could be whatever I want it to be. It's me and it's him, and we're laughing all the time, and we'll have drama, but it won't ever be bad. And I really wanted that. I wanted to date somebody. I made it all the way to the end of high school, and I had never entered a relationship. I hadn't done anything like romantic or sexual with anybody. I never even got my heart broken. Like, I just kind of was, and I was a little sick of it. I wanted the experience under my belt. I wanted it so bad. And I also, like I said, was deeply in the closet. I would meet girls and I would be so excited to be their friend and be like, it's just her friend. She's just really cool and I only want to be her friend. And I don't want to kiss her, okay? I don't. And I had a crush on this girl, and we were just becoming friends, and I really, really liked her, and I was so not ready to come out yet. I was really, really looking for any excuse not to realize I didn't like her, and I found him. His name was Daniel Quigley, and he's an idiot. And I was like, there he is. Perfect. If anyone in the house knows him, please don't tell me. I've met so many people in facets of my life who know this man. That's his actual name. It's just so stupid I had to actually say it. I truly, he was the dumbest idiot I'd ever met, and I fell head over heels for him. He was so, just nothing. I was funnier than him. Like, it was pretty perfect. But he was dating somebody else for a lot of the time that we were just getting to know each other, and there was a lot of, like, teen flirting where he would tell me, like, you're perfect and I love you, and I could never, imagine hanging out without you, and I would be like, does he like me? But do you think that he likes me now? I don't know. And eventually he does find himself to be single, and we're hanging out one night. We're on swings at a park. We're on 2 swings together, and he turns to me and he says, do you want to fuck? And I truly was like, I'm dreaming right now. Like, this is, as a horny teenager who's in love with him, you what? And he was like, yeah, my parents aren't home. Do you want to fuck? And I was like, I wanted to say yes, but my body all of a sudden was like, no, yes, I don't like you, you're dumb. Yeah, let's go do it. I never had sex in my life. Like, I wasn't ready on the spot, without thinking about it, without Googling anything. I still don't even know how to put a condom on or where to get one. I know. And so we realized his parents might be home a little on the sooner side than later, and we kind of decide maybe we shouldn't be having sex tonight. And I go off to the next day. We partied every single weekend, so I knew I was hanging out with him the next night. Lots of nights of Four Loko and weed in Prospect Park. If you weren't drinking original Four Loko, then lucky you. I think I have brain damage. And so we find ourselves the next night. My friend had a free. I don't know if you know what a free is, but it's his parents were out for the night, so we could drink there and not outside where it was cold. So we start there, we're all drinking, and he's here, and I've been talking all day with my friends about, like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know. Am I gonna kiss him later? Are you gonna ask me if I can do you think he likes me? Like, I don't know, do you think he likes me? And we show up, we're drinking our Four Locos, we're having a great time. He's kind of flirting with me like he usually does, but it's a little bit different than typical. And we find ourselves, we're in this big group of people, and they all kind of move from the room that we're in to a different room. And we finally have a moment alone, and he's sitting on like a little bench kind of right here, and I'm sitting on the ground below him, literally looking up at him. Just stars in my eyes, so into this guy, who again was nobody. If you think of a Lego man, just boy, that's who this was. And I'm just enamored because I don't want to be gay. And I'm looking up at him, and I'm like, hey, so, did you want to, what do you think about tonight? And he says to me something that I'm going to continue hearing in my life forever, which is just like, oh, I don't know. I'm just kind of, it's like tired, and also like, should we even really, like, I don't know, but why don't we be friends? Fuck you, man. Fuck you, man. Because you know what? We've never been friends. Because I met you when we started flirting immediately. So I'm not your friend. I like you. Like, this is not, fuck you. And I got so mad. I started power drinking Four Locos. Bad idea. Power drinking Four Locos. And we find ourselves outside because we have to leave. His parents are coming home soon. And we're sitting by a church drinking our Four Locos. I cannot stress enough how much stupid garbage I was putting in my face at that time. Dumb boys and drinks. And so we're sitting there, and I'm fuming, and I'm giving him the cold shoulder, and I'm being mean to him for the first time ever. And he's getting so, he's like, oh, his feathers are so ruffled. He's like, what are you doing? Can we go talk? And I was like, fine, we can talk. So we go down, all of our friends are sitting in the church up here, we're still in front of the church over here, and we get into like a Notebook-style Lifetime movie fight, where I'm like, you're just a tease, and you made me think you liked me, and I like you. Did you know that? I like you. And he was like, I like you too. No, I like you too. I just like, I don't know, it's just you're my friend. I like you too. And just like screaming at each other. Absolutely. We're 17 years old. What do we know about the feelings that we're saying that we're having? And we're just going at it. And then it ends in this big romantic moment where we grab each other and we start making out. I have my makeout with him, and he's a good kisser for being such a dumb person in my life. One of my top kissers, which I hate. And we are going at it, and we're making out so passionately. And then I hear over here kind of the sound of like water being poured, just like, and we kind of slowly pull away to our friend John standing there peeing on the church. And he's just like, hey guys, congrats. He gets, I'm like, okay, it's time to move. And we head all the way up to the park, and we spend the rest of the night kind of like talking back and forth about like, let's date, you're my girlfriend now, oh my God, I have a boyfriend now, and he's my boyfriend, and this is crazy. No one I have ever had a crush on before ever has gotten this far. Not once. And I am over the moon because I like him so much, and he's a good kisser, and we're making out off and on everywhere. At one point we get saddled with a bike because two of our other friends are making out, and for some reason we have to carry the bike. I don't know. He bikes over to them at one point to like tell them high five for kissing each other. Being 17 is weird. I don't really remember. But I just remember standing there and basking in the moonlight in Prospect Park and thinking, how did I get so fucking lucky? Because I don't get lucky. This doesn't happen to me. I don't have people fall for me. And I'm 17 years old, and it's never happened, and I'm just so excited. We get back to my place later. All the guys are staying over at my house for some reason. We're all watching a movie. We have a moment where there's like a blanket, and I'm wearing it, and then we're wearing it, and then my hand's on his knee, and then my hand's not on his knee. And I've never touched a genital that isn't my own in my life. But I'll massage your dick, sure. I'm kind of just a little bit of this guy, a little bit of this action, and he's acting like I know what I'm doing. He's like, and we're mind you in a room full of our friends, and I'm just. He gets up, hurriedly goes to do his thing. The night kind of finds its end. He sleeps there for the evening. We all wake up. Some of us go walk through the park. We smoke some more weed. No more Four Locos. It's the morning, please. And we walk all the way. I walk him toward his house, way far away from where I need to go. I had plans that day. I was going to meet Nick Jonas. which is a different part of the story, but that's a man I really was in love with. And I went out of my way to walk him almost all the way to his house. And at one point, it's just finally the two of us. No one else is here anymore. And I turned to him to check in, like, hey, are we still dating? Like, you asked me to be your girlfriend last night. What was any of that? And he turns to me, and he says again, oh, I don't know. I'm just like tired, and I'm just still getting over blah blah, whoever blah blah was, and I just think we should be friends. And that sucked, because I don't want to be your friend. We were never friends. We already did this. I already said I didn't want to be your friend. But I'm sitting there. I cancel I don't meet Nick Jonas, which really is should be the button on this, how shitty that was. I cancel my meeting with my friend. I don't meet Nick Jonas. But I'm sitting there, and I finally have a moment of like, I dated somebody. I had my heart broken. I did something sexual. And there are 2 months till graduation, baby. I made it. I'm Tess Henry, guys. Thank you so much.
Ladies and gentlemen, your sex ed teacher. Oh man, I have too many stories like that. Only it usually just ends with me crying, still virginal, and asking why. You said all the dumb guys are really good kissers. I hope that means that I was really smart. I'm being very vulnerable for you people tonight. One more time for Tess, everybody. All right, our next storyteller. She is a comedian, a theater artist, an educator, but most importantly, she is a bitch from Queens, and don't you fucking forget about it. Yeah, we're adults. We curse here. Beyond comedy, she has directed and staged several one-woman shows and recently completed her first ensemble play, Stand Clear, which she hopes will bring light to her experience of growing up in a cult. Maybe we'll touch on that. Please welcome Jonghee Celeste.
Hello, everyone. Yes, I am Jonghee Celeste. I am Jonghee Celeste. This is the photo. All right. Let me get out of the way. So first of all, take in the fact that I really don't look that different, but I did want you to recognize that I had, I'm a piece of something. Piece of what is up to you, but, So this is actually, despite my very religious upbringing, I did have a high school boyfriend. This is us. Me and my TI-84 Plus Silver Edition, whom I lovingly named Fred, after a man who tragically died at the Battle of Hogwarts. But actually, against my very strict upbringing, I did sort of have a high school boyfriend. We were together for about 3 years on and off. And it was a very classic love tale. He would direct all of the orchestra and music for the musicals, and I would be the vocal director. All right? And so, as people would often joke, we made beautiful music together. However, this was not quite true, because nothing really physical ever really went on. That is mostly because he was gay. Now, this is not something he disclosed to me at the time, nor, nothing. It was nothing like that. But I mean, there were some hints. I mean, even when his mother would leave us home alone for long periods of time, then all we would ever do is just lie in his bed and then watch The Muppet Show and talk about Stephen Sondheim. I wasn't completely in the dark, to be fair. But I think the reason that we were drawn to each other, besides our love of musical theater, was that we felt safe. And that is because, you know, as you can probably tell by my oddly intimate relationship with my calculator, I was a dork. I was so much of a dork, in fact, that I was a CAPE kid. And by that I mean, well, back in middle school, my father really dropped the ball on like taking me out to get like a Halloween costume, and he knows how much I love to dress up. And so at the very last minute, he just took me to Party City on October 30th, which is the worst day to go. It's the Black Friday of it, you know? And there was people were getting like trampled, like it was a mess. And so he just grabs the first thing he saw, which was a long red cape with a collar, and he said, "Here, make it into a costume." Well, not only did I make it into a costume, I made it into a lifestyle. Because from that point on, once a month, I would invent a reason to wear that cape. And it would always be accompanied by a sign on the inside, a handwritten one, which then I tape inside so that I could reveal it to people. The big ta-da! So, for example, I would like come in on September 17th to school, wearing my normal clothes, but with the cape, and be like, "Happy Constitution Day!" Or I'd come in on today, March 8th, so to everyone here, actually, Happy International Women's Day! But I would always change it up, and people would always be like, "God, Jonghee, what the fuck is it now?" The thing that I really did wrong with the cape, though, which I do feel slightly bad about, is that, well, at my high school, which was very prestigious, and again, partially explains the unhealthy relationship with the calculator, was very academically rigorous. They micromanaged all of the self-esteem out of us. They did let the students completely run the theater program. So whenever I would hold auditions, because I was often serving as, like I said, director, vocal director, things like that, I would wear the cape during auditions and callbacks because I thought it gave me an air of authority. Gave me the air of quite something else. Now, I was telling this story to my sister. I was running it by her because she was with me through most of my high school. And she said, well, first of all, she didn't think it was that weird because she went to Carnegie Mellon, which is known for two things: the School of Computer Science and the School of Drama. So they knew plenty of CAPE. She knew plenty of CAPE kids. She said, "Did you not think to maybe bring up your prom dress?" And I said, "Well, what about my prom dress?" And she's like, can you just think about it for like a minute? And I thought back to it, and okay, so everyone, what I had always dreamed of wearing to prom, in fact, what I had dreamed of wearing to my wedding, but I decided maybe I'll never get married, so I might as well do it now, was the full yellow Beauty and the Beast ball gown. Yes. I didn't have a date. But I wore it the fuck anyway. And it did not occur to me at all at the time that this was odd. And no one had the nerve to tell me. Everyone had just decided, like, they're like, this bitch be wearing capes. Like, we can't tell her what the fuck to do. Like, no, we're just gonna let her do what she's gonna do. And the thing is, I think maybe one of the problems in my life is that I'm not ashamed enough for how I acted in my adolescence, for my garishness. And in fact, I've only let it grow. But maybe the fact that it continues to persist is the reason that I should be proud. Thank you. I'm Jonghee Celeste.
Jonghee, I do just have a question. Why would you bring up watching The Muppet Show and talking about Stephen Sondheim as though that makes somebody gay? I just want to...
Lying but alone doing that.
What was that?
That we were lying but alone when his mom was not home doing that. That's what makes it gay.
I mean, tomato. But... Oh man, that's why. You know what? Fuck anyone who you want to go all, especially if you're gonna go all out and wear the full blown fucking bell dress. Fuck anybody who makes you feel weird for like feeling yourself out. Anyway, one more time for Jonghee, everybody. All right, are you guys having a good time? Are you having fun? All right, we've got one storyteller left tonight, but first we got to do a little bit of housekeeping here. If you've enjoyed our show tonight and you'd like to, maybe you've been watching and you've thought to yourself, oh, wait, I have a story that's kind of similar, and maybe you're curious about coming up here and telling it on mic yourself, we'd love to hear about it. You can find us on, do we have that graphic? Great. Okay. So if you want to be part of the show, we're always looking. You can go right to awkwardteenageyears@gmail.com. with your pitch for a teen story. Just send us like 2 or 3 sentences. Give us a general idea. We're always checking. We've had people on the show who it's their very first time telling a story before. And so we'd be happy to hear your thoughts. And if you want to stay up to date on updates and future shows, you can find us on Instagram at Awkward Teenage Years. You can find us on Facebook at Awkward Teenage Years. On Twitter is the houseplant that we've let die. But we still have it. I occasionally remember that, by the way, the social media posts are me, so like that's my albatross around my neck. But anyway, we're on Twitter at OcteenYears. And we have a full arc. So we started the show back in 2020 as part of the Frigid Festival in this very theater. And it was one of the last things a lot of us got to do before we went inside for a really long time. So we kept the show going through live streams once a month, and then eventually we were lucky enough to have Frigid invite us back and do this monthly show here. And so we have an archive of all of our past shows on YouTube. And you can find them by just looking for @AwkwardTeenageYears. YouTube.com/@AwkwardTeenageYears. Will just told me that's a new thing they're doing. You can find all of our full shows. Please check it out. Please follow, subscribe, do all of it. Thank you guys so much. And now, let's bring this home. We have our last storyteller for the night. We are very excited to have her on. She is a 3-time Moth Story Slam winner. She is the creator and host of the critically acclaimed storytelling show Yum's the Word, which features her homemade ice cream cakes. She has shared the stage with Hannah Gadsby, Trevor Noah, and more, and has performed at the Kennedy Center, the Lincoln Center, on Sirius Radio. She's from the Hartford area. She loves cycling and enjoys being an aunt to 6 nieces and nephews who affectionately call her Achu. Please welcome the one and only Robin Gelfenbein.
Thank you, Grant. Thank you, Will. Thank you all for being here. Which picture do I have? Oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's an ice cream. Oh. Yeah. You know what's sad? Like, my dad's friend was the orthodontist who did that great work, and now I feel like I need to get Invisalign because these front 2 teeth I feel like are like protruding. Now that's all you're gonna look at, so I'm glad I brought that up. Matt, you were talking about church camp, and I believe, Grant, you were echoing that. I was one of the lucky Jewish people who was sent to church camp as a kid. Yeah, it was extraordinarily confusing. I was like, did you just send us because it was cheap and close by? Like, and I'm the oldest of 3 girls. And when my sisters and I were there, we used to do this thing. We sang all day long. And we would do like morning thought and evening prayer. We had these books. By the way, this is not my story. I'll get there. We had these like books that we would sing out of. I still know the songs. And my sisters and I would be sitting there singing, and they would look at me and they're like, Robin, what do we do? And I was like, just don't sing the parts about Jesus. So we would be sitting there singing like, yes, loves me, yes, loves me, yes, loves me. The Torah tells me so. And the other thing that was confusing was I was like, my people's music is in a minor key. These are all major keys. I am so in love with this audience. Like, you're such musical nerds that you're like, I get it. Especially Cape Girl. And then just one last thing about Catholicism. Just fun fact about the Gelfenbeins. My dad actually is Catholic, and his brother is a Roman Catholic priest. I'm Jewish because my mom's Jewish, and my uncle's name is Father Gelfenbein. So do that math. It's super confusing. Okay, so I'll get to my story. So it's my senior year of high school, and I am standing in the auditorium on stage. It's completely dark, and there's a single spotlight on me. My heart is completely racing because I am auditioning for my dream role. For the last 4 years of high school, I only have wanted to play the lead in our musical. I also wanted a boyfriend. Didn't get that, so I was like, I'll take my second dream, okay? And it's always eluded me because it's always gone to a soprano and I'm an alto. And the whole time throughout high school, I was like, I just don't feel like anybody really got to know me. Like, I don't think people really know that I'm funny. I mean, my friends think I'm funny, but nobody really got to see my full potential. And so now we are doing a production of Calamity Jane. Yeah, high stakes. And Calamity Jane, they needed an alto. They needed somebody who could dance. I've been dancing since I was 3, and they needed somebody who could play a renegade. Now, I, at the time, was a total rule follower, but I was like, I know I have it in me. I know I can play a renegade. And so I prepared like crazy for this role. And I was just so excited. I was like, she chews tobacco, she wears pants. Like, I just love Calamity Jane. And so I'm, just standing there singing my heart out. And the only other person in there besides the pianist is the man who I have to impress the most, our choral director and the director of the musical, Mr. Schmidt, also without a cape. And now Mr. Schmidt had this like blonde, curly, almost like kind of clown hair. He always he had this like gin blossom nose, and he always wore shirts that were like 2 sizes too small for him for some reason. He always looked like he was just strained. And so he's sitting out there, and you just did not want to piss off Mr. Schmidt, because we used to do these fundraisers for our choral trips. So we would like rake leaves and stuff. And a lot of times kids would blow it off. And then in chorus, he would like slam his hand so hard on the piano and he would yell, sign up, show up. And so I was like, I don't want to make this man mad. And I'm thinking like, I think I'm kind of like in with Mr. Schmidt, because I was in the select choir. There were only 16 of us, and we were called the Choralaires. We had blazers and wool skirts, and we would do like school assemblies, and we'd visit, we'd sing at nursing homes. It was quite the circuit in the Hartford area. And so I was like, I think I'm pretty in with Mr. Schmidt. So I just sing my heart out. I'm like, oh, the Deadwood stage is heading on over the hills where the engineers are thicker than porcupine quills. And so I'm just going to town. And when I'm done, I leave the auditorium. And under his breath, Mr. Schmidt says, good job. I know. And I was like, oh my God, he never tells anybody anything. And so a week later, they post the cast list. So I go bursting through the chorus room doors. And at the very top, it reads Calamity Jane. and I do not see my name next to it. And so I'm scanning the rest of the sheet, and I'm scanning it, and finally at the bottom, I see that once again, I have been relegated to the chorus. And I am heartbroken. But I'm even more mad because next to Calamity Jane's name is this girl who's a junior. We'll call her Maureen, because that's her name. And Maureen sucks. She is known for soccer. I was like, Maureen, I have dreams of being on Broadway. Give me this. But I'm the consummate professional. I'm like, the show must go on. So I don't say anything. And now I think Mr. Schmidt kind of felt bad for me. So he gives me one line, and that one line is told from backstage. And the one line is, it's the Deadwood stage. I memorize it as soon as I get it. And it's the cue for like the big opening number where all the villagers come out. Everybody is happy here in Deadwood, and they're frolicking, and they're gay, and everything's great. And so I am just stewing. I'm so angry. And, opening night comes. Everybody's backstage. They have opening night jitters, buzz, 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 buzz. And I am just like fuming. And Maureen goes out and she starts she's singing, and she's just sort of like plowing her way through the show. She gives me my cue, and something comes over me. I decide to take some liberties with my line. Now, this story takes place in the Wild Wild West. But for some reason, I thought a Southern accent would be appropriate. So I channel my inner Delta Burke, and I just go to town with, woohoo, yippee-ki-yay, ride 'em cowboy. Hey, everybody, check it out. It's the Deadwood stage. And the whole chorus comes out, and they're all looking at me and laughing, and I'm like, wow. And Mr. Schmidt is in the pit, and I'm like, I don't dare look at him. I don't want to piss this guy off. And so we do the whole show, and when it's over, my friends come up to me, and they were like, Gelfenbein, that was hilarious. What are you going to do tomorrow? And I was like, oh, I don't know. I hadn't planned any of this. And then I think, well, I did get such a warm reception. I don't want to let my fans down. And then it occurs to me, I can get away with this relatively anonymously. Like, there's no mention in the program of Village Idiot, played by Robin Gelfenbein. So typically what would happen in any normal play is that you get notes that night. Mr. Schmidt had a very unconventional way of doing things, so he was going to give us notes the very next night before our next performance. So I was like, okay. So we get there, we're sitting in the chorus room, and he's giving, notes to like the leads and some of the supporting characters and some other people, and I'm just sitting there like my heart is racing. I was like, oh no, he's gonna like yell at me, oh shit, and then he doesn't say anything, and I think, oh, he probably thinks like she just needed to get that out of her system. And I think, he doesn't know me very well. So now it's the second night, and I'm like, bring it on, bitch! Bring it on! Like, I was like, bring it on, Maureen, because I am not mad at you anymore. And because I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do, but this is gonna be so good. And so she's just like, suckered her way through the show. She gives me my cue, and I just like unleash, woohoo! Yippee-ki-yay! Ride 'em cowboy! Jessup, bring me my spectacles and some lemonade. Whew, I am thirsty. Hot dang, I was right. It's the Deadwood stage. Everybody walks out. They're all cracking up again. And out of the corner of my eye, I can see Mr. Schmidt, and he's like doing like this kind of thing. And I know he's like livid, and so I was like, in my head, I'm like, suck it, Schmidt. And so the show ends, and the next night is closing night. So we go back into the chorus room, And Mr. Schmidt is giving notes again to the leads and some of the other characters. And then he looks me dead in the eye. He slams his hand down on the piano so hard, and he goes, "No improvising! Stick to the script!" And it's like high school, high noon. We're like looking at each other, and I'm like, no. And the whole room is silent. Everybody knows like this is directed at me. And so I'm bummed, but I was like, well, I had a good run. So the show starts, I'm backstage, and I'm watching Maureen fuck her way through the show. And I'm thinking about the last 4 years and how I never got the lead, and I was like, that part should have been mine. And I'm thinking about how like nobody ever got to see my potential. And then I was like, you know what? Fuck it. She gives me my cue, and I go, woo! Yippee-ki-yay! Random cowboy! Oh, we started this the same way. Random cowboy! Well, Bill Hickok, get out here. I don't care if you have smallpox. This is huge. It's the dead one stage. The chorus comes out. Nobody can sing. The band is like... Mr. Schmidt has officially blown a gasket. Like his bow tie is all skew, his hair is frizzy now, and his buttons are popping off, and he's losing his fucking mind. And I'm like, and I look down at him. Oh, by the way, I was like, sad as this is, this was the highlight of my high school career. And I look down at him, I'm like, you messed with the wrong girl, bucko. And I'm like, put me in drama detention, whatever that is. And I was so happy. I was so proud of myself that I went for it, all 3 nights, but particularly on the last night. And I was just so proud of myself because I was like, finally, I think people did get to see some of my potential. And technically, I didn't get the lead, but ultimately, I was the one who stole the show by playing my own version of Calamity Jane. Thank you.
Will, Will and I have talked for a long time. It's like we got to do a night of just school play stories. I think that just proved we've got to make it happen. Guys, thank you all for coming out tonight. That's our show. Give it up one more time for Matt, Amanda, Tess, Jonghee, Robin. Give it up for the staff here at Frigid. Give it up for Kier for running our tech tonight. This has been Awkward Teenage Years. We'll see you next month. Thank you so much.